Good morning, everybody. This is Deb from Just Do Something Homestead, and today we are going to talk about 5 big misconceptions about vacuum sealing. Welcome to the channel, and I thank you for joining us today. We are going to talk about vacuum sealing, and if you've been around for a while, you will know that a lot of my videos center on how to vacuum seal your foods. But today's topic is specifically on 5 misconceptions about vacuum sealing. Number 1, cheap vacuum sealers work just as good as expensive ones. Absolutely not. Let's talk about it. I have many types of vacuum sealers. This one is my old standby. I've used this one. It is a food saver for more than a decade. And the important thing is you must have a port on there to vacuum seal in jars, which this one does. Now, I understand that many people have had issues with cheaper food savers. The reality is you get what you pay for. This is a different sealer. This is a rechargeable food saver handheld, and I do like this one. I enjoy using this one. It works fine for short-term storage. Now, you may wonder, what is short-term storage versus long-term? Short-term means this one I keep in my kitchen. If I grab something from my pantry that was sealed and I pull off that seal and I use a little bit, I can reseal it with this little handheld one and put it right back into my cupboard for short-term storage. Say that one 3 times quickly. Short-term storage. Woo! Thus, the choices that I have, this one is number 1. I use this for anything that is long-term storage. And this I keep in my kitchen for short-term. But this, my friends, is all over the internet. People are going crazy over this vacuum sealer. And I'm going to tell you, I do not like it. And let me give you the reasons why. Vacuum sealing for long-term storage comes down to one thing. Is the sealer you're using powerful enough to form a solid seal on those jars? Big name systems such as Food Saver, Lem, Cabela's, and others, that is what their job is to make a powerful vacuum sealer, both when you're vacuum sealing bags and if you are using the attachment. These little electric mason jar vacuum sealers are simply cheap. Cheap plastic, less suction. Yes, you will get it to seal, but you know what? It's a false seal. I have said this over and over. You may get it to seal your jar, but a week later, a month later, 6 months later, maybe even a year later, that seal will have popped. I don't have time to check my seals every week. I need something I can depend on. And for me, that is my food saver. But it's so easy to use and it was so cheap and I ordered it on Amazon. All right, let me show you. Let's seal a jar. If you watched one of my last videos in search of organic foods, I found some popcorn at Trader Joe's. And so I am going to seal that into a 1-quart sealing jar. This one is wide mouth. I can use either wide mouth or small mouth. It doesn't matter. And I put on my wide mouth funnel so that I don't spill popcorn all over the place. This 28 ounces of popcorn fit into this jar almost perfectly. Now you'll say, but there's still some there. All I'm going to do is shake it around, slowly lift this up, and look at that. It is a perfect fit. I am going to seal this jar, whether it was with those small black cylinders or with a handheld food saver or with my large food saver machine. It's the same process. So I'm going to wipe that with my hand, make sure there's no crumbs on there. This container is all used lids. That is correct. You can reuse your lids when you vacuum seal. Now, I could wash that off, but let's be honest, I know it's not organic chips. I can look in that jar and say, that's popcorn. So I'm not too concerned that the lid is written on, and I'm just going to place that on top. To use this vacuum sealer, you do need to take the smaller insert off. So you're going to turn it and pull it off. To do this, you're going to look at the side here. Right now it is locked in. You want to turn it to unlock and pull that piece off. That will give you the wide mouth opening that you need to seal. Next, push it down over that lid until it's on solid, and you're going to push the power button. We are now at 3 minutes. Yep, that's as long as it can go. It says I have 66% battery left, but it took 3 minutes to seal that jar. All right, so after 3 minutes, I am going to remove this and we're going to check that seal. I have had many people tell me that you don't need to leave it on there for 3 minutes. All you need to do is to seal it until the sound changes. I have done that, but it's not a tight seal. Let's see if this in fact vacuum sealed. Well, the center is down. When I pull on it with just fingertip strength, it is on there. It is definitely sealed. The question is, how long will that seal last? There is one really quick way to test this seal. What I want you to do is to see if you can break the seal. Can you open this just with your fingers? And so I'm going to try. Look at that. I did not pull on that lid very hard. This seal was going to break. And that is precisely what I have been trying to tell people. You may be able to seal it, but you're not going to keep it sealed. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to seal this with my food saver and see if I can pull the lid off with my fingertips. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I have this. I'm going to wipe it off. I'm going to put the same lid I had on. Now this time I'm going to use the wide mouth adapter. My only gripe about Food Saver is they still don't include these. I think if they have the port to do the vacuum sealing in jars, they should include the hardware to do it, but they don't. This was a purchase that was less than $10 off of Amazon. And to vacuum seal it, I'm going to push it on top of my jar right there until it snaps. The vacuum sealer will shut off when it is sealed, so I'm going to turn on my machine. And then I'm going to go up here to accessory. I timed it. That was less than 30 seconds. I'm going to pull the top off. You can always hear the air at that point. And then I'm going to remove the lid and check the seal. And just like that black cylinder, the center is down, fingertip, it is sealed. This jar is sealed. The difference is this is long-term storage. All right, this is going to determine it. I'm going to see if I can pull this lid off with my fingers. And honestly, I am trying. I don't know if you can see my fingers. I cannot get the seal off. In fact, if you had seen, maybe right there you can notice it. There's a little dent there. When I remove my lids, I need to use a jar opener because I can't pull that lid off. There is no way. Even Jim could not remove this seal. That's the difference between using a Food Saver and using the generic off of Amazon jar sealer. Now I guarantee if I check this seal in 6 months, a year, 5 years, or 10 years, this seal is still going to be solid. It all comes down to how powerful is your sealer. The last thing I do when vacuum sealing is put a ring on it. Now, if you notice my little ring holder, this is a cheap $1 paper towel holder, but it works great for all my rings. In fact, I keep this by my sink because I use it so often. But I'm going to put the ring on there, and there we go. One thing vacuum sealed. One last thing on how powerful these sealers are. I really wish that when you purchase these products, they would tell you the strength of their vacuum. That would solve all those mysteries, and we would know for sure which one was more powerful. Now, you may be wondering why I have one of these around if I really don't like it. Well, if something was to happen and we suddenly had no power, I could quickly, this still had 66%, I believe, I could vacuum seal some of my foods that I hadn't gotten sealed. So I keep this around, but no, it is not for my long-term storage, only short-term. Misconception number 2 about vacuum sealing. You can use a vacuum sealer to can any food. No, you can't. I have seen people say that they vacuum seal all their foods and that it seals and that it's fine. And let me tell you what, nothing scares me more when I think of you serving these foods to your family if they've only been vacuum sealed. These 4 jars are foods that I canned. Some were water bath, some were pressure canned, but they were all canned according to the directions that is safe. So what I have is green beans, apple pie filling, cranberry juice, and corn, and these have not been vacuum sealed. Can they physically be vacuum sealed into a jar? I'm quite certain they can, but they are not safe to eat. Botulism is very, very real. One of the Christmas trends that I see going around is to make these cute little cheesecakes and to do it in the oven and then to seal them, not can them, but seal them and put them on a shelf. That is not safe. And if you receive one of those for Christmas, I highly recommend that you think about the safety of your family first. And I have no doubt that I will have people that will come on here and say, well, I've been doing this for the last 25 years and I have killed nobody. So if that's the chance you want to take, then go for it. But as someone who is a YouTuber showing people how to preserve foods, I simply will not do that. I will only show you ways that I know are safe for your family. And so vacuum sealing foods that should be canned is not safe. But in true Deb style, what I'm going to do is show you if we can, in fact, vacuum seal a jar of fresh corn. Well, it's not fresh, it's canned corn. But I'm going to open this up, put it in a jar, and we'll see if we can vacuum seal it. I've strained this pretty well. It's dripping a little bit, but I do not want the fluid, going into my vacuum sealer and ruining it. So I am going to dump all this in there. Woo! I'm missing it. It's hard to do it one-handed. All right, so I filled up my container with corn. All right, cleaned up my mess. Now I'm going to wipe the top of that to make sure it is completely dry and then add another lid onto it. Well, that was granola cereal. It'll work just fine. I'm going to use my food saver because that's usually what I do use. And let's see if this will vacuum seal. I've never tried it, but we'll try it. We'll see. It shut off in about 30 seconds. Oh, I heard the air come out. Let's check that seal. The center is down. When I pull on it, yep, it's on there. This jar is sealed. So you can use a vacuum sealer to seal moisture-rich foods, but you cannot put this on a shelf. It is not canned. If I was to put this on a shelf for a couple days, couple weeks, it's going to go bad. And you risk harming your family. Now, one thing I can do with this, I can put a ring on it and then put it into my refrigerator. That's going to keep it, but only for a few extra days than if I had just put this into a container without vacuum sealing it. So please, oh please, do not try to vacuum seal foods that need to be canned. Number 3 of the big misconceptions on vacuum sealing. It is too expensive and too time-consuming to vacuum seal your foods. Do you ever throw food away? That is where it becomes expensive. Let's talk about what you need to vacuum seal. The most expensive item that you do need is your vacuum sealer. My food saver was less than $200. I have used it for over 10 years. That's less than $20 a year, and it's still going strong. Next is jars. Do you realize that most of my jars come from thrift shops or people that have donated them to me? I am not spending a lot on jars, and once you invest in these jars, unless you drop an entire case, nothing should happen to them. They're not going to go bad. So it again is an investment. Next, you need rings and you need lids. But as I said earlier, you can use those lids over and over again. And the very last thing that you need in order to vacuum seal is food. You're purchasing that anyway, and this way you can extend the best by date. Let's talk about what is a huge time waster. For me, it is grocery shopping. I do not go every week. I definitely don't go every day. My grandmother, I remember every couple days she would go to the grocery store and say, what do we want for dinner? So I only go once every 2 weeks or so. I can go longer. It's convenient not to, and I am trying to stock up. But a huge time waster is grocery shopping. To offset that, I buy in bulk. And what we're going to talk about now is cereal. I mix my own cereal from a variety of organic cereals. People have asked me why I do that. One of them is the cost. Another is I love this cereal. This is from Aldi. It's granola, but it is very heavy. And so if I stir in some lighter cereals, it's going to go further and it's not going to have so many calories. That's one of the big things for me. I don't need to eat 600 calories in a bowl of cereal. Every month or two, I mix up my own cereal, and that's what I'm going to do today. And it's as simple as what I just said. I'm going to take a variety of them, mix them all together, and you will see that it's extremely fast to do this. And then I have a month or two of cereal on hand. I can add other things. This is my dehydrated strawberry powder. I add some pumpkin seeds to my cereal mixture. And I just blend it all together. Once I have this all mixed together, I am going to start vacuum sealing it in half-gallon jars. When it looks as though this jar is completely full, what I do is I start shaking it around and pounding it down. And let me show you what happens. It starts to sink down. So with that space in there, I am going to fill it in, and I'm going to do this several times until I know I have as much in there as possible. All right, little housekeeping while I fill jars. You always want to use jars that do not have any chips or cracks in them. Make sure you've washed them in soapy water and you have dried them completely. You don't want any moisture to be touching your foods. All right, in that little bit of time, I was able to mix up my cereal, and I have 9 jars ready to seal. Each jar only takes about 30 seconds, so we're gonna fly right through these. Took about 5 minutes. All of these jars are sealed. I'm just going to write the date on the lid, and you can choose to write either the expiration date of the product or when you actually vacuum seal it. Because I dumped in multiple cereals, I'm just going to write when I vacuum sealed it. Misconception number 4. Vacuum sealing can refreshen expired or stale foods. That is absolutely not true. You want to use as fresh a food as possible. And here's an example. I just purchased these pretzels, and I was excited to find them, Nature's Promise, and the date is January 23rd, 2024. So I went, opened them up, took a couple out, and intended to vacuum seal them. But for some reason, these pretzels are stale. So if I was to vacuum seal them, they are not going to taste any better. It's not going to change them. You want to only vacuum seal foods that have just been processed, whether you've done it yourself and you've dehydrated them or you purchase them. Don't purchase expired food and expect them to taste better being vacuum sealed, because they won't. And the last myth that we're going to look at today is you cannot vacuum seal salt, sugar, or powdered items like flour. And again, that's simply not true. There are 2 different reasons that people say you can't vacuum seal these powdered baking items. The first one is they say it's going to get hard as a brick. Well, this one I vacuum sealed years ago. Now it says 2023, that's the Best By date. So if it was true that it's going to turn into a brick, then it wouldn't be doing this. Let's talk about vacuum sealing. Vacuum sealing removes air. If you want things to clump together, it is done from moisture, not from air. So you are removing the air. There's no way that it can turn hard because there's no moisture to do that. This one is sugar, and you will see that there's a paper towel up at the top. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But with this sugar, you will see that it has not clumped or gotten stuck together. Again, because there's no moisture in there. The other reason that people say you cannot vacuum seal powders is because it is known that if you vacuum seal powder, it can be sucked up into your machine and destroy it. So what you need to do to solve that is to put a barrier in between. And I'm going to show you how to do that. This one was with a paper towel. You want to put a barrier on top of your product, but not hanging over the sides of the jar. Now, what I use is paper towel. You can also use a cupcake liner. You can use coffee filters. I have taken one sheet of paper towels and cut it into two. In the past, I used to cut out perfect little circles. I don't have time for that anymore. So all I'm going to do is push this down into the top and make sure that it goes all the way to the sides. And push the ends in. That's why I said you don't want those ends sticking out. So just keep working it down in there until it's completely in the jar, just like that. Then after that, you're just going to seal it like you have all the others. Put a flat on top and seal the jar. All right, I heard it thump right there. If you hear that little metal sounding click, you know that it is sealed. Remove the sealer. Check the seal, make sure it's on there. And now all I have to do is write the date on there and put a ring on it. I have 10 pounds of flour. I'm going to see how many pounds fit in each jar. One little tidbit about vacuum sealing flour. There is no need to freeze it because without oxygen, your insects cannot be living in your flour. So there is no way you'll have any critters in your jar, so no need to freeze. And on the same topic as that, there is no need to put in an oxygen absorber. You're already absorbing all the air, so no need to spend money on them. 10 pounds of flour equaled about 3.5 half-gallon jars. So I actually had 2 10-pound bags, and that gave me 7 jars full. Today we went over 5 big misconceptions on vacuum sealing. If this video was helpful to you, please like, subscribe, and share. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye.